the arena trembled. The serpent's scream tore through the night, then shattered like glass. Gray collapsed, his shadow dissolving into smoke. The black-suited men scattered, their power broken. And Ethan kept singing. Tears streamed down his face as he finished the last verse. Silence followed, heavy and sacred. Then the crowd erupted, a tidal wave of voices chanting his name. Not Gray's puppet. Not a product. But a real artist. The woman appeared in the front row, her pendant glinting. She smiled, whispering words only he could hear. "You're free now." Ethan dropped to his knees on stage, overwhelmed. He wasn't rich because of Gray anymore. He wasn't trapped by contracts or lies. He was free because his voice, his true voice, belonged to him and to the people who believed in it. From that night on, his songs were no longer just music. They were truth. They were rebellion. They were freedom. And they made him not just millions of dollars, but a legend. Chaos erupted. Security stormed the stage. The crowd screamed as men in black suits surged forward, trying to drag Ethan away. But the fans resisted, blocking them, chanting his lyrics back at him. Gray's voice bellowed through the speakers. "Cut the feed! Silence him!" But it was too late. The forbidden song poured out across the stadium, carried by thousands of voices. The air vibrated, the sound raw and unstoppable. And then it happened. On the giant screen above, the golden serpent emblem twisted and burned. The lights flickered. A low, inhuman hiss filled the arena. Gray's face contorted, shadows crawling across his skin. He wasn't just a man. He was something older, a vessel of the serpent itself. As Ethan hit the final chorus, the serpent shrieked, writhing in the air like smoke tearing itself apart. The crowd roared louder, their voices joining his. The forbidden song wasn't just music. It was a weapon. The arena roared like thunder. 50,000 fans screamed Ethan's name, their phones glowing like stars in the darkness. Lights blinded him, cameras circled, and Mr. Gray stood backstage, watching with that predatory smile. Ethan's hands shook as he gripped the microphone. The teleprompter lit up with the words of Gray's song, a hollow anthem written to sell millions. But Ethan's notebook, hidden inside his jacket, seemed to burn against his chest. One chance. One song. He glanced at the crowd, their energy like a tidal wave. He thought of the woman's words. "The serpent can't own what is freely given." His fingers found the first chord. His heart pounded. Instead of singing Gray's song, Ethan strummed his own. Raw. Honest. A melody of pain, hope, and rebellion. The teleprompter went black. The sound engineers scrambled. Gray's face twisted with rage. But Ethan didn't stop. His voice cut through the chaos, soaring above the noise. The forbidden song was alive, and the crowd felt it, chanting, crying, raising their voices with his. For the first time, he was free. The woman explained everything. Gray wasn't just a producer, he was part of something older, darker. A network that thrived on stolen voices, stolen souls. Artists were tools, vessels for songs that weren't entirely human. But there was one weakness. A song born purely from the artist's heart, sung freely without contracts or chains, couldn't be touched by the serpent. Ethan's hands shook as he realized. The song he had been hiding in his notebook all along. The one about his father leaving, about nights of hunger, about love and loss, that was his key. But performing it would be dangerous. Gray controlled the arenas, the cameras, the airwaves. One wrong move, and Ethan would vanish like the others. The woman leaned closer. "You have one chance. Tomorrow's show. Play it live. If the world hears it, you're free. If not..." Her words trailed off, but Ethan didn't need her to finish. He knew what was at stake. That night, he sat in a dark motel room with his guitar, strumming the chords of the song he was never supposed to sing. Tears blurred his vision. His voice cracked. But the song felt alive, like fire coursing through his veins. And tomorrow, the world would hear it. Ethan escaped into the neon-soaked streets, heart pounding like a drum. Every corner felt dangerous, every passing car suspicious. He ducked into an all-night diner, hiding in the last booth, his hands trembling as he opened the notebook again. This time, he looked deeper. Between lyrics and notes, he found something strange, faint watermarks that only showed under the diner's flickering light. Symbols. Coordinates. A pattern. His mind raced. The woman hadn't just given him warnings, she'd given him a way out. But the words from the torn page echoed in his mind. The serpent can't own what is freely given. What did it mean? That his songs, his real songs, might be the only weapon strong enough to break the contract. As he traced the symbols, a shadow fell over his booth. Still alive, huh? A familiar voice said. It was the woman. Her eyes darted nervously around the diner. We don't have much time. They know you've seen the names. They'll silence you, like they did the others. She slid into the booth and whispered, The only way to kill the serpent is to make the world hear your song. Ethan spun around, but the room was empty. His chest heaved. The shadow he saw wasn't imagination. The air still felt heavy, charged, as if someone had just been there. Slowly, he turned back toward the glass, and froze. On the balcony door, written in condensation, were words scrawled by an unseen hand. Don't sing their song. His blood turned to ice. Suddenly, the lights in his hotel room cut out. Darkness swallowed him. His phone buzzed violently, the screen glowing with a single text from an unknown number. They're coming. A sharp knock rattled the door. Another knock. Louder. Then fists. His guards. Open up! But Ethan didn't move. Instead, he clutched the notebook, shoved it into his jacket, and bolted through the balcony door. 10 stories above the street, with nothing but wind and neon lights, he climbed down the fire escape, knowing one wrong step meant death. The tour was a cage disguised as glory. Private jets, luxury hotels, arenas packed with screaming fans. Every night, Ethan stood under blinding lights, singing songs he hadn't written, smiling for cameras he wanted to smash. But behind the curtains, the truth was darker. His security guards locked every door. His phone calls were monitored. Every attempt to reach out to the mysterious woman, blocked. Every time he tried to sing his own songs, the sound engineers shut off his mic. The notebook never left his side. Late at night, he read it over and over, searching for a way out. On one torn page, he found a clue. The serpent can't own what is freely given. But what did it mean? One night, after a show, Ethan stared at the ocean from his hotel balcony, wondering if freedom was even possible anymore. And then, in the reflection of the glass door, he saw it. A shadow. Standing in the room behind him. The notebook was filled with names. Dozens of them. Some scratched out, others circled in red. Beside each name, notes. Disappeared after third album, overdose, mental collapse, vanished without trace. Ethan's blood ran cold as he recognized names of artists he had admired his whole life. Singers who rose from nowhere, burned bright, and vanished suddenly. They were all tied to Mr. Gray. All of them. And now Ethan's name was on the last page. Every lyric he had written, every song Gray had pushed him to sing, it was all part of something bigger. Not just music. Control. Manipulation. A machine designed to chew up artists and spit out husks. Ethan slammed the notebook shut, his hands shaking. He wasn't just fighting for his freedom. He was fighting to survive. But as he turned on the TV, his stomach dropped. Gray was announcing Ethan's next world tour. 50 cities. A global stage. And Gray's words chilled him more than the notebook. This tour will make history. Ethan will never be forgotten. The message haunted Ethan. He couldn't sleep, couldn't think. Who sent it? He scrolled through endless comments on his music, thousands of fans praising his genius, calling him a savior of music. But hidden among them, he found a single comment that chilled his blood. I was where you are. Don't trust the serpent. The golden serpent. the emblem on his contract. That night, after a concert, Ethan slipped away from his guards. In a dark alley behind the arena, he heard footsteps. A woman appeared. Her face was pale, her eyes burning with something between anger and fear. She wore a torn leather jacket, and around her neck hung a broken microphone pendant. "I was one of them," she whispered. "I sang for Gray. I signed the contract. Just like you." Her voice trembled. "He'll give you everything, fame, fortune, immortality. But he'll take your soul. One song at a time." Before Ethan could ask more, headlights flashed. Black cars screeched into the alley. The woman shoved a crumpled notebook into his hands. "Run!" The money came fast. Too fast. In weeks, Ethan moved from his crumbling apartment into a glass-walled penthouse overlooking the city. Luxury cars waited in his garage. Jewelry sparkled on his wrists. His songs topped charts worldwide. His face was on every screen. But so was Mr. Gray. Every interview was scripted. Every lyric was censored. Every movement was monitored. The men in black suits followed him everywhere, disguised as security. Ethan tried to fight it. He wanted to write his own songs again, songs about love, pain, truth. But every time he tried, Gray's voice cut him down. "No one wants your truth. They want what I give them." The fame felt like chains, heavier than poverty had ever been. One night, Ethan stood on his penthouse balcony, the city glittering below him. For the first time, he wondered if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. His phone buzzed. A new message. No name, no introduction. Just words that froze his blood. "You're not the first. And you won't be the last. Get out, if you can." The contract was signed before Ethan realized what he had done. Days blurred into nights in the secret studio. The man, who finally introduced himself as Mr. Gray, pushed Ethan harder than he thought possible. "Sing again. Louder. With pain. With hunger." Ethan sang until his throat burned. But when the final track was finished, even he couldn't deny it, the song was alive. They uploaded it under a false name. No promotion. No marketing. Just one song tossed into the chaos of the internet. By morning, it had 500,000 views. By night, 5 million. By the next day, Ethan's phone buzzed with endless messages. Labels, managers, fans screaming his lyrics into their cameras. He sat in his apartment, staring at the screen in disbelief as his songs spread like wildfire. For the first time, the world saw him. For the first time, they cared. Mr. Gray simply said, "This is only the beginning." But Ethan didn't notice how Gray never left his side. Didn't notice the men in black cars parked near his building. Didn't notice how every lyric he wrote was now being rewritten, reshaped, repurposed. Because fame had a price. And he had already paid it. The card led Ethan to a warehouse on the edge of the city. From the outside, it looked abandoned, shattered windows, rusted metal doors, graffiti sprayed across the walls. But inside, it was something else entirely. A hidden recording studio. Golden lights spilled across polished floors. Soundproof rooms lined the walls, packed with state-of-the-art equipment worth more than Ethan had seen in his life. And in the center stood the man in the suit, waiting. "You're here," the man said simply. "Good." No introduction, no small talk. He handed Ethan a set of headphones and motioned toward a microphone. "Play." Ethan hesitated. Everything about this felt wrong, too sudden, too surreal. But his fingers knew the guitar like an old friend. He played one of his raw, aching songs. His voice shook at first, but the sound that filled the studio was like nothing he'd ever heard before. Pure. Powerful. When he finished, silence filled the room. Then the man smiled for the first time. "We can sell this. Millions." Ethan's pulse raced. For years, he had begged people to listen. And now, someone with real power was telling him he could be more than a dreamer. But as the man slipped a contract across the table, Ethan felt his stomach twist. The golden serpent emblem was stamped across the top. After the show, Ethan barely had time to catch his breath before the man in the suit appeared. He didn't introduce himself. He simply said, "Follow me." Something in his tone was not a request. Ethan hesitated, but curiosity and adrenaline pushed him forward. They slipped through the crowd, out into the rain-slicked alley behind the club. Neon lights flickered above puddles, painting the night in crimson and blue. The man finally spoke. "You have something rare. A voice that can sell millions. But raw talent means nothing without direction." He reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek black card. Nothing on it but a symbol, a golden serpent biting its own tail. Ethan turned it over in his hand. No phone number, no name. Just the emblem, gleaming under the rain. "What is this?" Ethan asked, his voice shaky. The man leaned closer, his eyes sharp as glass. "This is the beginning of everything you've ever wanted, or the end of everything you know." Then he walked away, disappearing into the night, leaving Ethan alone with the card burning in his hand. Back in his tiny apartment, Ethan couldn't stop staring at it. His heart thundered with both fear and excitement. He knew this wasn't just about music anymore. It was about power. It was about danger. And it was about to consume his life. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat frozen, staring at the email as if it might vanish if he blinked too long. The link pulsed in his mind like a forbidden door. Finally, with trembling fingers, he clicked. It wasn't a virus. It was an invitation. A flyer opened on his screen. "Open mic night, downtown club. One song. One chance." The event was tomorrow. He felt his chest tighten. He had played bars before, sure, to empty chairs, to drunk strangers who didn't even look up. But this was different. Something about the email felt orchestrated, like fate itself had sent it. The next evening, Ethan stood backstage. The club was packed, the biggest crowd he'd ever seen. Lights bathed the stage in gold and crimson, music thumped through the walls, and the air was thick with sweat and anticipation. His name was called. His knees almost gave out as he stepped into the blinding spotlight. The chatter quieted. Dozens of eyes locked on him. His guitar felt heavier than it ever had before. He strummed the first chord. His voice cracked on the first line, fear strangling him, but then something shifted. He closed his eyes, blocked out the crowd, and poured his soul into the microphone. Every lyric was a confession. Every chord was his heartbeat. When he finished, there was silence. A terrifying silence. And then, an explosion of applause. The kind of applause that shakes walls and rattles hearts. For the first time in his life, Ethan wasn't invisible. He was unforgettable. But among the roaring crowd, one man in a dark suit didn't clap. He just watched, smiling faintly, as though he had been waiting for this moment. Ethan always loved music, not for fame, not for money, but because it was the only thing that made him feel alive. By day, he was invisible, a broke waiter at a cheap diner, living in a rented apartment with peeling walls and a second-hand guitar that was older than he was. By night, though, the world changed. In the dim light of his tiny room, Ethan sat cross-legged on the floor, strumming chords no one else had ever heard. His notebook overflowed with lyrics, raw, painful, filled with dreams of escape and the fire of a soul that refused to give up. But no one listened. He posted his songs online. 0 views. He performed at bars. People talked over him. His mother told him to find a real job. Every night he whispered to himself, "One song. Just one song that the world will hear. And everything will change." Then, one night, something happened. A mysterious email appeared in his inbox. No name, no introduction, just a link and a message. "Play this where the world can hear you. If you dare." His fingers hovered over the keyboard. His heart pounded. Ethan didn't know it yet, but this single decision would launch him into a world of fame, fortune, and danger he could never imagine.